I'm done here. Just a second.
No, it's good.
Okay. Perfect.
All right. I'd like to take this moment to introduce our next session. We've got creating social media content during your internship with Professor Clint Saunders and Dr. Holly Leggett. So we're going to share this session with us.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Wingelbach. So I'm going to start us off, and then Professor Saunders will follow up. But a little bit about what we're going to talk about this particular time is your specific social media assignment for the summer. And then Professor Saunders, hopefully he'll talk a little bit about kind of his prior experiences, but he was with the Houston Livestock Club Rodeo as their communications coordinator for 15 years and then worked in that space for 18 total. So has a great background in social media, and he was really on the team as they transitioned into a huge digital media audience and a huge social media audience, and really helped with that strategy and how to develop that strategy and thinking about their audiences and the type of content that they deliver. So has a lot of relevant experience in communications, and he's actually a professor of practice in our department now. So just a little bit, I'm going to go over your social media assignment for the summer. And for those of you who are online, we're going to post some of these different types of things for you guys in the coming weeks. Dr. Wingelbach and I will go through some of the different types of documents and materials that we have and post those for you. So you'll have a copy of those too, of the things that we do. But for the science influencers in the room, this summer, you will be in charge of creating content for our social media accounts. And so Abril will be posting those. And one of those things that to have some continuity in how we do this, you will submit your things to us, and then we will craft them for the social media. And so what you're going to see, which I'm going to switch around Davis's, I'll send you a final version of this via email, but this is just so you guys have the assignment sheet in front of you. I'm going to switch Davis and Ava because of the timing of their internship. So Ava will lead us off in developing our social media content. And so Ava, your first round of content will be due May 23rd. So what it's going to look like is we have 14 weeks over the summer and into the early fall semester, and you yourself will be responsible for providing us content for 2 of those weeks. This last year we did this and it worked really beautifully. We had done different things in the past, it just wasn't smooth. But what you're required to do is upload your content 1 week before it would be posted. So you will see that the week over here, the posting week, is the week that it'll go up. This is over here, the content due in our Google Drive on the left, or on, I guess, be the right column for if you're looking at paper. This is when your content's due Google. And so then Abril will take that content and prepare that content for delivery online. Now, what that looks like is you will be responsible for creating content for both our Instagram and our X account, formerly Twitter. And you will create at least 3 social media posts for Instagram and 3 for X. Now, realize it may not all be put out that week. We may use it to kind of, some empty places, but the majority of it will be put out that week. What I would also encourage you to think about is somewhat what they talked about yesterday. Dr. Dawson talked about yesterday is thinking about what that content's going to look like, right? So don't just shoot from the hips and say, oh, this would be awesome, or that would be, but what do I want to highlight about my internship this week? And, for some of you, it may be the environment that you're in, like you're going to Spain. Maybe you want to talk about the country a little bit, about, different kinds of things like that. Other times it may be just simply, what are you doing in the lab that week? What does your research look like? Are you going on a field experience? What does that kind of look like? And integrating as much science into it as you can, and delivering it in a way that the public can understand it, right? Last year when the students got back, Cameron took over engineering Instagram stories, reels for the day. And the director of social media for the College of Engineering is one of our former students. She was very open to that. So if some of you are interested in, hey, taking over, I would like to take over a social media account when I get back. Maybe it's your colleges, maybe it's your departments, maybe it's your organizations. So be thinking about, is there content that you could develop over the summer that you could easily just take over when you got back? You could just be the focus of that social for that day. So it says at least 2 of the posts each week should be about your science and the project that you are conducting. And then you can also have some social media posts about your experience there. It's important to talk to your internship supervisor about the type of content you can and cannot post. And so there are some things that are proprietary information that your supervisor may not want you to post on social media. It's very important that you have that conversation of like, I have to fulfill this obligation with my Science Influencers program. Is there any type of content that I need to stay away from? Go public with, right? And so make sure, and I would also encourage you to have your supervisor review the content that you are providing, because that's that person that said, say, yes, this is scientifically sound. That was one of the things Dr. Dawson, I felt like yesterday in his conversation really weaved, right? Is he kept saying, we want to make sure that our information is scientifically sound. We want to make sure it's the correct scientific information. And to do that, they went through several rounds of edits, right?
Right, I think both correct and ready to be released.
Yes, correct and ready to be released, yes. And also then USDA has several ways in which they want us to think about, or not, they want us to tag the programs. And so we have a whole separate social media sheet of like things to consider when you're disseminating your content online, which I will also provide to you. But in that, when you provide us content to post on our social media, we own that content as Science Influencers. In other words, don't go put it on your own social media and then send it to us also. Let us be the first to disseminate it. And now with Instagram, we can do joint stories. And so we have no problem with doing that, posting us and jointly with you. But let's make sure that content comes from Science Influencers first. After that, share, repost, do whatever you want to do with it in terms of that. But let's let that content come from Science Influencers first.
Sorry, Dr. Leggett. Would you prefer them to repost from Science Influencers to get a little more reach from?
Yeah, so I think in the past, we've always asked students to repost from us. But we can also in Insta do those joint posts. And so I think that wouldn't be as bad either, but we've always asked for you to repost from us. So how it's going to work basically is you will, and there's some explanation down here, you will have a folder on this Google Drive, and that is where you will put your information. What we ask of you is to put up your media, so whether that be a photo or a video or whatever that looked like, and then a Word document with the captions that would go with that media, right? And so you might just label your media, however you choose to label, let's make sure it's easy to understand. So if it's like week 1_1, then over here you would put week 1:1, and then you would have the caption, week 1_2, and then over here you'd have the caption, right? Whatever that looks like for you, that's easiest for you. I think it's fine as long as it's easy for us. We do have a media release. So if for some reason somebody says, oh, we need a media release for that, or we need a photography release or a videography release or whatever, we have a release that we use. And so I'm happy to share that with you as well. And I can put all these things in the Google Drive. But the media release is actually online in Qualtrics for us, so it's easy for us to get that information and keep that information in a space. But we... and then the last thing that I want you guys to do is, so your summer payments this summer, your internship payments will revolve around, do you submit your content, because that's your deliverable for the summer, right? So before I will release money, I will go in to make sure that you have been submitting your deliverables, and that is your social media content. So just make sure that you don't upload, you didn't get paid this summer, right? That's your way for me to say, yes, they're paid. So that's important to note. Do you have questions about the assignment sheet before Clint walks through some things that you would want to know about social media, and then we do some interactive work for your internships? Yes.
So as far as the type of posts that we do, should we do more personal stuff, or should we do?
No, so it says at least 2 weeks. This says that right here. At least 2 of the posts each week per platform should be about your science and the project you are conducting. So you've got to do 3 posts. So what that says is 2 have to come. So 66% of your content needs to essentially come from your internship. 34% of your content can come from your personal adventure.
So, okay.
But there's ways that you can bring those two together, right?
Yeah.
So like, for example, when we had Jared Cook last year, he would go out into the creek and that was his adventure for the day. But then he would also like tell us about the science of the things that he found, right? So those two things. So like for you, JD, you could totally go out, do some invasive species kind of thing. It's a hike you're taking for the day, or Caleb, it's a hike you're taking for the day. And you just so happen to tell us about your science while you're on the hike, right? Or while you're out hunting invasive species or whatever. So there's ways that I think you could bring those two together. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Other questions before Clint walks us through? Thanks. All right, Mr. Saunders.
Okay, thank you. So like Dr. Leggett said, I'm Clint Saunders, worked at the Houston Livestock Show Radio for 18 years. Social media kind of came about in the middle of my career. So we kind of were learning it and creating it and as we went. And what I learned last semester when I was teaching emerging media, that creating engaging content is not really a problem for many of y'all. But hopefully this gets you into a creative space and makes you think about things outside the box. But like I said, hopefully this is just probably a review for y'all, because engaging content is not necessarily a problem. Question on the assignment real quick. So for the internship, it's possible if they work with their supervisor to post on their pages as well?
Yes.
But they have to work with their supervisor on that?
Yes.
Okay.
But they do. So we're not limiting them to only producing 3 things, but that's what they got to do to fulfill science influencers requirement. They may want to take over. JD, they may want JD to work on for Texas Forestry. They may ask him to for their social media for the summer, right? So this is just the fulfillment for the program, but they may be asked to do other things because of their age and they're young and they're fun and they're all the things that we're not.
It's nice to think. More things for them to think about
Yes.
after creating the content.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So when you're thinking about content, this is most important. Who is following your channels? You have to know your audience. So we'll do a little quick dive into Instagram and X to see what the overall global statistics are. Now, in the real world, you would take those statistics and that research that you find on each of those platforms and compare them to the followers on your platform that you're posting on. They may vary a little bit. So you've got to look at the global statistics plus what's happening for your specific platform. Think about who is liking, commenting, engaging your post. These are your followers that will help you create your content as you move forward. Okay? You may create a social plan that you've done for a year, but you better go back and adjust it because your followers are going to tell you what they like, what they want to see, the type of content, the things that are getting the most engagement out of your posts. Okay, so here's some quick demos and usage. We've got 2 million monthly active users for Instagram and 368 million on X. Okay, the key takeaways here. Instagram's going to skew a little younger, right? What's y'all's most favorite platform that you use most?
Instagram.
Okay, exactly. Okay, so Instagram has the Gen Z and millennial groups, which is 18 to 34. That's 2/3 or 60% of their user base. Okay. What are you, Dr. Wingenbach?
I'm right in there.
Right there? Okay.
I'm Instagram.
Okay, the other big takeaway is gender. X holds the share on males. Okay, so we need to keep that in mind as well. Okay, educational level. Key takeaway, Instagram seems to skew a little higher on education level. Right? That's going to be important as you create your content. You're still, I don't know that education level is always going to, you always still have to find that way to simplify it for your consumer, even though we have a higher educational level. But it's good to keep in mind.
On that note, what percent of Americans do not go on to post-secondary education? Give me a number.
70%.
Yeah, it's 2/3. It's 66 to 67%.
I had a question more on those statistics. Is there a reason that neither of those add up to 100%?
Yes, and what I found in my research was they didn't understand why either. So that's a good question.
So some people responded as some college.
So I was gonna say probably some corresponded as some college, and then everybody has at least, if you're in a college of some kind, you're gonna have at least a high school degree. So, right, so some people probably marked high school. And I have some.
Graduate to be a 2-year
I
college
mean,
graduate.
technically you have some college if you're a college graduate. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So they probably weren't clear in their, my guess is they weren't clear in their survey answer or question. And so people didn't know how to answer, it, which is a whole nother thing.
It's degree, some college and
Yes.
postgraduate.
Yes, yes.
So,
Yeah, I understand.
okay, where do they live? Instagram, urban areas, right? It's a little higher. Okay, interest. What do they want to see? These are global statistics, remember? So Instagram can be a little more entertaining and funny, but X can too. But Twitter is the most used site for news. So when we craft our content, we can probably skew a little more entertaining on Insta and a little more straightforward news on Twitter. People like to express their opinions on Twitter, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's think about when we create this content. What are our goals? We probably
Does everybody know what the mission is of, Dr. Wingwalt, can you bring up the social media or the science influencers website and read off our mission and our. My computer.
Think.
Wow.
This program prepares students to become effective, influential communicators of science in the public domain.
Okay, so I guessed on your goals. I would guess all of your goals would be similar, but is it to educate?
Yes.
Yeah.
And provide news in a consumable way?
Yeah.
Would that be accurate?
Yes.
Okay. Any other goals? Advocate. Very good.
Also, I had a comment for the Twitter. It was interesting to find out that Twitter is more news related, and it made a good connection just because Twitter has a limited space. So that's a perfect amount of space for a headline to catch attention and then attach to the article or your data.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's a good directional. That's all it can be used.
You
for.
want.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perhaps another goal might be inspire or interest.
Inspire interest. Yeah.
I just had a quick question about what we can post. So we can make a podcast and that can count as one of our posts, correct?
You just write it, you would just.
Right.
The copy to put, and then
Yes.
wherever it clicks to.
Oh.
Yes.
For our summer content, are we allowed to make like videos?
Yes, there's really no parameters on what you can do. I would say the more engaging, the better, right? And so there's really no parameters on what you can do. As long as it's like, for example, the podcast, as long as it's housed in a place that we have a link that people can click on and get to it, right? or the videos, as long wherever that they're at. Or if we need to, if they're short videos, we can obviously upload them.
Like a reel.
Yeah, we can upload them. Social media, so,
Get to that in a little bit, but always video is still key.
yeah.
Social media, so be a good call. Okay, think about your tone and voice for each platform. So when I asked Dr. Leggett earlier, it made me think, this is going to be a complicated assignment because you are looking at what is the tone and voice of science influencer sites. Texas A&M. Texas A&M is a part of this too, right? So you're creating content that fits into both of those realms, but also where you're interning because you're hopeful that your internship will post on their pages as well. You got to take into consideration all of those audiences, all of those different platforms and those different brands and organizations so it can fit as a whole. All right?
Yeah, and one of the things I think about in that space is what we'll do is we'll introduce like at the beginning. So we would say like Ava is taking over the intern or the social media for the week. And she's interning here. So like we'll set that stage to where they know that we're not all collectively posting as a brand of science, right? Like, yes, we are, but like we will say, like, Marisol's got it this week, and this is where she's doing her internship, right? So, like, it gives some flexibility, I think, for you to be a little bit more in your voice than having to stick to like Texas A&M and Science Influencer, where you're writing it for our brand and we're trying to fit it into our brand. But we will acknowledge, like, hey, y'all are taking it over, so let's see what they have to show us from their internship, right? So I think that's a little bit more flexibility in the branding.
Yes.
Than what would typically be of like you're trying to write it for our brand.
Yes. But still keeping them in mind and
Yes.
being respectful of other entities that are involved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's good. Okay. And your key message. Think about your key message. What is that key takeaway that you want your followers to take? You know, those bite-sized consumable information that you can post and get to them. Something that triggers them to read more and learn more. And then think about your timing. So between X and Twitter, X and Instagram, Tuesdays and Thursdays, they're pretty consistent. Mid-morning to early afternoon. As you all know, Instagram is a highly visual platform. You want high quality photos, high quality graphics, short videos, all work well on Instagram. Think about utilizing the feed posts, photos, and multiple photo carousels. With the Instagram algorithm, carousel is you have what, 3-4 photos in your carousel. So if your audience does not see it the first time, they'll switch out the photo. So it gives them another photo to look at first to hopefully increase your engagement. So photo carousels are a good option. IG stories, you can share a lot of information at one time through a story. Right? Live and reels. You can also post them on your feed and as stories. So the top performing content is reels, then carousels, then photos. Keep that in mind. And the suggestion is 3 to 5 hashtags per post. Okay, like we talked about X, users consume more news here. So you can kind of think of more entertaining, exciting, more news, more boring. But there's the difference between the platform. But Twitter people still like entertainment, so it's a balance. Okay. Short, sharp, and informative messaging. Simple and clear videos. They're going to be more limited on hashtag usage because they will count towards your character count. So the suggestion is limit to 2. Okay, so here's just some things to think about. People love behind the scenes. Okay. I'm not sure of y'all's projects yet. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but we can kind of see how that can fit in. But people love that type of information. Attention grabbing images and text. If you're sending them to your podcast, what's going to grab their attention to listen to that podcast? Always think about videos, emojis, extremely popular. But always know what the meaning behind each emoji is. Because I don't. But make sure you do know before you use it. Look at trending posts. What could you jump on that is trending right now that you make specific to you and to your area? Okay. Hashtags. Think about hashtags. Think about high quality infographics. Those are always easy and consumable, right?
So think about that a minute, guys, because it doesn't mean you have to create the infographic. What if you're out and about looking at things? So I think about Marisol doing some water work right in the Rio Grande. What if she finds an infographic from a reliable talks about the science that she's doing? Then she could have that for her media, and then we could just write a post. She could write a post for it. We could put that on Science Influencers, and then take, if you want to learn more information, go to this organization who have created the infographic. So it's not that you always have to create the infographic or create that. You know what I mean? If it's something you found that really does a really good job at talking about your science, then by all means, let's put it on there.
It brings legitimacy to what she's already telling.
Yes.
So it's always a good idea. People love to hear stories. Pull into the emotion. Tell your story. Memes are very popular. How could they fit in? Ask questions and engage with the audience. So if your internship allows you to do a takeover, engage with your audience. Talk to them. Answer their questions. So we talked about entertaining. You are all working on very serious scientific information, right? Okay. So like Dr. Leggett said, I worked at Peace and Loss Option Radio. It is multiple things, multiple audiences. At the end of the day, it's an educational charity that promotes agriculture. But we are also an entertainment event. So I always had a fine line to walk, right? I wasn't going to post, slang or inappropriate things because we were an educational charity. We gave scholarships for college. But then you have an entertainment base of Houstonians that came for the concert or the carnival. And so it was a balancing act. So think about that when you want to be funny. You don't want to slight your project or your science or your work by jumping on a trend or being funny. It has to fit, right? Not every trend is appropriate. So always think about what is appropriate for your audience, what is appropriate for your content. The fine line. Sometimes you gotta put a little humor in social media, so think about that when you do it. Being might not always be appropriate, but if you can find a way to merge it all together, then it's that golden post. Right? Okay, I want to learn about what y'all are doing. So let's talk about some of y'all's projects and maybe we can brainstorm on some ideas for this assignment. You want to go first?
Yeah, because mine's a little bit of a mouthful and I'm still trying to narrow down the information because we're going to be having the National Oceanic Atmospheric Organization in Laredo, and we're going to do urban heat mapping. And they put me in charge to pretty much spearhead this event. We're going to pick the hottest day of the year, sometime in July. And they are giving us equipment. We're getting on cars, a 10-mile radius grid of Laredo. And we're all going to drive 3 times a day. So we're going to need a lot of manpower, volunteers. I'm organizing to get local celebrities, high school mascots involved. we can get attention and get cameras, get GoPros, have water for everybody. This is huge. And I really want to simplify this information so the public understands Laredo is baking and we don't have tree canopies. We don't have shade. The kids in Laredo hardly go outside now. It's a norm to see the heat waves come up from the concrete since the morning. So that's one big event. And the other one would be river monitoring of the Rio Grande. And we're hosting Harvard graduate students of the design school that are going to help us coordinate Laredo a little better
Okay.
with their infrastructure.
And you have a story
Yes.
and you have emotion.
I'm so passionate about this.
Yes, but it's an emotional topic too
Yes.
that you can pull into.
Yeah, absolutely.
It sounds like you're going to have great visuals
Mm-hmm.
with celebrities and local
Yes.
high school and things like that. So what could that look like?
I think the pictures are going to be great with the mascots. We have a baseball team too. We're going to include him, the local celebrities like Henry Guaya, the Cigarroas, and make it just inclusive to everybody. It doesn't, I want to remove the parameters of education level. Everybody should be involved and aware of this.
So also with your day event, that'd be a great place for a behind the scenes
Yeah.
video.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, you have some good options there.
Thank you.
It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I didn't know about this and
Yeah.
it's very cool. What do y'all think?
I just need it. I'm probably gonna have to get a new phone because my battery just drains and it's starting to overheat. And I think I could get a better camera too, the C11. So I can probably. I'm aiming to upgrade.
Professional camera.
I'm gonna just get a new phone.
I mean, you also don't, you can do a lot with editing. Like, you don't need the greatest camera quality in the world. And that's like a good camera. Like, that's good enough for what you would need to do with like taking pictures in the moment, posting on stories, making videos, making TikToks.
Yeah.
So something I would suggest is you're envisioning doing everything by yourself.
It is a group project, but it's me and another director handling this the NOAA event.
Okay. So even at that, why not provide the opportunity to some friends to say, hey, I need a mobile reporter. Come up with a few questions about how to interview. Let them do their own camera and work and get more youth involvement because I'll bet there's a lot of aspiring videographers who want to be the next YouTuber sensation. And here's a good opportunity to just put out a call and say, when you get back to Texas A&M Internet, put out a call on a student listserv or something, I've got this project, here are the days. If you're interested in helping out,
Sure.
send me a mail.
It's a mutual.
Yeah, because it sounds like
Sure.
we're trying to get volunteers for different roles.
Where you're gonna
and
need
that
a lot of manpower.
could be one of the roles, also possibly be partner with local media.
Yes.
To get coverage and maybe
Yeah.
able to.
Yeah.
This is Laredo's one of the 7 cities that was picked for this project. So it's a big
It's a
deal.
big deal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would also encourage all of your volunteers, anybody that's out there participating, when they see something, snap it,
Yeah.
videos, submit the content. It may get used, it may not, but
Mm-hmm.
the more options you have to choose from, the better.
Yes. Thank you.
It's a good point.
Well, mine's not as dramatic as
Going to Spain.
I'm going to Spain to a university there, and I'm doing research on biosensors for stroke diagnosis. So that's what I'll be doing this summer. And there's two options of what I'll be doing. One of them is figuring out basically okay. So the device, the biosensor is ideally going to be ambulance that what type of stroke a person has diagnosed when they get to the hospital. So one, we have to find like, we have to look at like for biomarker, find the right biomarker that the biosensor has to find, whatever, to diagnosis. So that's one of the projects. Another one is figuring out how they're using like lymphatic fluid to do their diagnosis, and they want to figure out how to weigh it in the ambulance, or like figure out how much it weighs and find the mass of it using just like, you can't bring all your equipment into the ambulance, obviously. So we have to figure out a way to weigh it. So that's another one of the projects that I'll be working, or that I might be working on. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So very research heavy.
Yeah. Okay, Ruth. Sorry, I was following too much. What is the sensor diagnose? Stroke. That the person is having a stroke.
Yeah.
So the quicker we diagnose this, the better we can help these individuals,
Yes.
right? That's emotional. That's a story to tell.
Okay.
People have lost people to strokes, or more damage has been done because it wasn't diagnosed quicker. I'm making this up. I don't know. But
Yeah.
so it's an emotional story to tell. The good that you're doing, get these into the ambulances, right? Yes, sir.
So I'm working in an MIT lab over retinal microfluidic environments. So I'm going to be the person making sure all the cells are alive for these like mini models, I guess. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I keep dropping pencil. Sorry, that's enough time today. But yeah, it's pretty much it's really kind of groundbreaking work, kind of on the brink of discovery. So I'm gonna try to make content that can show. I don't know how proprietary the information is, but I know the stuff that I'll be doing is at least common knowledge. But yeah, the goal of ours is to figure out how to model and implement therapeutics into glaucoma and retinal atrophy disease.
So that's a lot.
Yes.
So I would be thinking about how to take a topic that could be focused enough to do it in 30 seconds. And so it's just chunk information. Chunk. Otherwise, I mean, it would be a total snoozer after, a minute of,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you're good and all, but
Yeah.
the level of science you're talking at is for that very thin slice of upper graduate.
The problem is you go onto the website and there's words that even like after doing hours of research are still way over my head.
Yeah.
So
I think some of the context, I mean, glaucoma, major
Yes.
cause of blindness,
Retina.
major cause of blindness,
Yeah.
this may lead to a care.
I'd break it down, very micro chunking.
But I was thinking problems we're trying to fix. This is affecting all of these Americans, and this is our work. Yeah.
So maybe one more. And then we can move to take a break before Tammy.
Would like to go.
Other audiences.
So I'm basically researching something to do with geology and microbiology and the combination of the two, because microbes will eat rocks and produce different things. It's looking at the technology that you can use those interactions for agriculture or something like that. The cool thing about that is I'm an expedition caver. So I go into the caves, these small tight passages, see those Instagram stories of someone trapped in a small hole with water rushing to them. Yeah, that's kind of big.
Great
Yeah.
visuals.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
And you're crawling through a cave.
Yeah, so we go in, we get the
Make
samples.
sure it's transmitting out in case something happens. We've got the video.
Oh, there's no transmission in caves, so yeah, but there's cool. But that's the exciting thing. And then we get the samples, we bring them back, and then there's all this cool research that goes on with those. So my idea is like trying to, the eye-catching thing of the adventure and the visuals and stuff, and lead to the microbiology and geology things that I'm actually researching for 90% of the time. So, but
And you need a helmet cam.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna be my idea is like Reels, TikTok, like video based.
Yes.
I think is the best for sure.
Can I just point something out? He already has an awesome Instagram
Yes.
account. Like I've gone
Yeah.
through it. It's visually stunning.
Yeah, you can see the section of everyone right away.
It's doing the right.
So perhaps something to consider then is not to take away from that persona that you've already got, that's awesomeness, but a spin-off Instagram persona more dedicated just to this. Because even as we saw yesterday with the physics, they have many different channels within an umbrella. So it might be a way for you to, separate this science for those who are more actively seeking just that type of science, leaving your other personality or persona free to do other things.
So leaving the persona of the personality.
Absolutely.
Is.
Yes.
Like, that's the exciting thing, is to get attention. And then like having a little bit of science thing that leads to another page entirely.
Look at the physics lab that I had up yesterday on Instagram. There's their main site, but right underneath that is Dr. Tatiana, Dr. So-and-so, et cetera, et cetera. So they each have different, and it's like subsidiary channels to the main body. And there are many, I think Jared may have also that's like his personal channel versus his influencer channel. So that's something to take into consideration so that you're not necessarily always linking your freedom of expression to just this one message. Because perhaps there's other things you want to do. So I don't know, skydiving, that you don't have a science interest in it per se, but you still want to do it. You still want this following for your high adventure. See what I'm saying? You can separate the two.
Hi, this is Kim online. Again,
Kim.
from yesterday. So just as a reminder, and for those of you who were not in attendance yesterday, I'm the lead for the Scarlet REU undergraduate internship program, and we focus in ag STEM fields. So I do plant pathology, and I have a small but attentive following, I guess, because my subject area is very interest specific, right? Plant diseases, plant health, that's very specific to a very specific group of nerds, including myself. So, but things that I have found that have been really helpful is to be authentic. If you're excited about your super nerdy topic, be excited. Keep it professional, but, let that excitement show. And that really engages people, and you'll build more long-term followers and eventually reach a broader audience if you kind of maintain that connection. And also, if some of you are kind of struggling to translate your topic area, because I've been listening to some of your super cool projects, and as a scientist, they just get me so excited, like super cool stuff that y'all are doing. I'm so excited to see where you go in a few years. But I'm an extension specialist. Our job in extension is to translate all those super cool science things to palatable information for the general public. That's our whole job, no matter what field we're in, whether it's plant health, animal health, range management, whatever, right? So if you're having trouble with that process, find an extension faculty member in your agency or in your area. If you need help connecting with that, I can connect you with some people. Texas A&M Extension is huge. We have a lot of specialists. We have a lot of county agents, but honestly, a specialist will probably fit your needs a little better. But my point is, contact us. And even if we're not involved on your project, most of us would absolutely be delighted to help you be able to frame your project in a way that is more palatable to the average person in the public, so that you can effectively communicate your topic. So please, please, please do feel free to reach out to extension faculty. We love that type of thing, and we love engaging with motivated, top performing students like all of you are. And that's my 2 cents. Just keep it authentic. Reach out for help if you need help translating all of your super cool projects into more accessible language for the public.
That's excellent points. And we might add that those specialists exist in engineering, in health, and nutrition, a wide range of topics. So thinking that
Almost every department. Yeah, like
excuse me?
every specialty, every department has extension specialists. So I'll put my email in the chat, and you guys can email me if you want some information. And if I don't know them, I can at least point you in the right direction of where to find a relevant specialist for you.
Excellent point. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. But seriously, y'all's projects are so cool. Like, I'm just, my little nerd heart is so happy.
Yes, they're very exciting. I wish we had time to listen to all of them. One last note, after listening to these topics, we talked about humor a bit. You might want to put that in your back pocket for a new project, but I'm not sure they fit everywhere, but you can always think of it in mind. So
Awesome. Thank you, Clint, for coming and speaking.